What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Girl Dating Podcast with two girls and their dad. We have me, Kanaya, my sister, Kiani, and my dad, Marcel. This is a weekly podcast that we're coming to you every week to talk about anything and everything girl dating. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy.
All right, y'all, let's
So today we're focusing on the differences between my daughters. So we titled this episode Blueprints, Not Duplicates. And I want us to emphasize the importance of fathers who have multiple daughters, recognizing each daughter's identity, each daughter's uniqueness, and then encouraging each daughter to pursue her individual greatness. All right, that was always my modus operandi as a father, to use the firstborn as the blueprint for how the secondborn should kind of carry herself and govern herself without requiring the second and subsequent ones to be just like the first one. So I don't want children to be duplicated, but I want them to follow a blueprint for success and being extraordinary women. So that was what I wanted to do with you all. And throughout this podcast, I'm sure you will tell me how successful I've been. So I want to start with Kanaya, again, being the older of the two. Tell me how you believe my parenting has helped you be the top star big sister that you are.
I think one of the biggest impacts was definitely how you feel about your older sister. I think that having someone that you feel has been successful in life, has done the things that you want to do in the way that you want to do them, is very helpful. I think that watching you try to learn from her was also inspiring to me, because I wanted to be someone that Kiani learns from. And even like my other mentees that are girls that I consider like my baby sisters, to be able to come to me and ask questions, advice, even if it's just how I handle a situation. But I think there's just an innate expectation, so to speak, of being the older child that I kind of could see with your parenting and with mom, that, you know, there was an expectation of me simply because there is a number two.
Yeah, and so, it's funny you should say that, because I don't think I've understood the depth of the value of me having an older sister, how that impacted my parenting, until you just mentioned it. I think the world of my older sister. Again, she's my hero. I always wanted to be like her, in the ways that I could. And so, I wanted you to do great things because I know you have the genetic disposition to do great things. I also understood that my older sister is awesome. So I know what it's like to have a terrific older sister, and that's what I wanted for Kiani. But I don't think I ever gave much thought to helping you to develop that. So I think you kind of picked up on that organically. The other ironic part about it is both your mother and me are second borns. Mm-hmm. We have older siblings. Now, she has an older brother, but we can relate to Kiani in that realm of trying to follow an older sibling who has set such a high bar. So I didn't really give that much thought until you mentioned it a few seconds ago.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where it started, and then it kind of grows as you get older. I think it was different when we were kids, and it was just kind of like, oh, we play with toys and we have a good time and we like ice cream and TV shows like Barney and things that are just for 8-year-olds. But now that I just finished my teens. Kiani's in the middle of them. There are more, I don't want to say pressing, but there are more significant events occurring in life now that, you really would like to have somebody that you can ask. I did not. So, and even though I have a plethora of aunts and cousins, it's different when it's been 10 years since or 20 or 15 or whatever, since they went through something versus, I just left my teens, in 2023. So I think that I try to be what I didn't have or what I wish I had as I'm getting older for her so that she can make less mistakes or different mistakes than I made. And the things that did work, that she can do those things however they fit into the life that she desires for herself.
Kiani, what are your thoughts about being the younger child under my parenthood, under your mom's parenthood, and how we have helped you become the young lady that you are today?
Being the younger sibling in general, like I've said a bunch of times, I kind of have the benefit of some of the things that I'm doing already have happened. So I have the benefit of going through certain things. You already knowing, oh, well, we went through this Kanaya, so we kind of know how to approach it and how to do different things. Like you just said, with you and mom both being second born, like I don't really like think about that as much since you have another younger sibling. But with you all being the younger sibling of someone, you all kind of have the mindset. I don't want to say the mindset, but the idea is
experience.
The experience of not having so much pressure on you because you're not the oldest, but still in a way, kind of feeling like you have to measure up because there are people in front of you.
For sure.
And so I think that ties into how I'm growing up and becoming a young lady, just that like naturally in life you have expectations and you have standards that you have to meet. But when you have a sibling who, like Kanai, has done so many great things, there's always the mindset of like, okay, yeah, I'm meeting the standard, but like, or I'm doing something different, but am I doing what they want me to do, seeing how my sister did it? So like, and this is like with testing and going to an academic center, like, yeah, cool, like I'm in an academic center, but like, I'm not going where you went to high school. And in terms of like things of that nature, I mean, like, there's a little more prestige, I want to say, to the school you went to than the school I went to. And then there are things that I do now, whereas like, I don't want to go into more so corporate America. I'm like, you want to start a business, you want to be the head of a company, you want more so wealth and fame, and I don't want those same things. So it's always a constant mindset of, okay, yeah, this is what I like to do, but like, are my parents going to see my accomplishments, or are they going to have as much weight as yours do, considering you have more, I want to say, academic accolades, but I have more artsy accolades?
Well, I can speak from experience, again, chasing a sister who was a trailblazer academically. I mean, my older sister is in the top 3 of the most intelligent people walking the earth, in my opinion. And so, no, seriously, I mean, I think Marquita is beyond the boundaries of intellect. I mean, she's just an extraordinary woman. And so that she was the person I was always chasing. And so, she would get good grades. And so, and a lot of that comes from our mother. My mom was very deft on getting good grades, on making sure we weren't slacking off in school, making certain that we were pretty much setting the pace for our classrooms. So, when my sister would bring home straight A's, then I knew I had to bring home straight A's. Not because necessarily my mom reinforced that I needed to be like her, but because, maybe it was sibling rivalry. I didn't want my sister to do things and get credit or get recognition that I wasn't going to get. And so once I saw it was an effective formula for her, I wanted to emulate that. And it wasn't until I became an adult when I realized how much of an impact my older sister has had on me in terms of things that I strive to accomplish. And so I understood the power of a role model for you. But before you got here, I still wanted Kanaya to be on a on a path where she was going to do extraordinary things with or without a younger sibling. And so I did set high expectations for her because she needed them in order to be the best version of herself. When you came along, then she had the added responsibility, and I use that word on purpose, of being a good role model, because I understood the power of siblings being good peer role models for one another. And so what I think you've done, Kiani, and by no means am I expecting you, and your mother isn't either, expecting you to be a cookie cutter, to fall into a pattern that Kanaya has done. What we do expect of you, as we have expected of her, is to be the absolute best version of your unique self. And so, yes, we want you to get good grades, but I've always said, if you try your absolute best, that's all we can ask for. And sometimes your best may not be good enough for you to get to where you want to be. And you ladies have heard me compare it to, if you're riding, or if you want to get on a roller coaster, if the sign says you have to be this tall and you're only this tall, well, yeah, this tall is the best you can do. Your best isn't good enough. That's okay. Give it some time. Eventually, you'll get to this point where you can get on the ride. So as long as you two do your best, we can't complain about that. Now, we know when you're slacking, because we know how intelligent you are. But if you've given your 100% best effort and it hasn't given you the outcome you want, then you've learned something and you can be better prepared to try again the next time.
I will say, like, in terms of like falling into a pattern, I will say that, like, I don't think I in certain ways have fallen into, like for example, like makeup, nails, hair, like that was a big Kanaya thing. And with Kanaya being so much older than me, and
So much?
in terms of like being able to do certain stuff, I mean, like there's certain things, like there's certain things Kanaya.
Okay, all right.
Also,
the age gap feels bigger when you're in a certain space of life.
yeah, like now that she's like almost out of college and I'm, almost out of high school. I mean, like there's such a different point in your life. So it's just like I look up to some of the things that Kanaya does and that she is able to do and how she does them, like how she handles college, and like with it not being a so structured environment to the point where, like, okay, well, you have to be at school, and so just making sure you're at school, making sure you're at class. Like, if she wanted to, she didn't have to go to school. That's the money, and that's gonna get you in trouble. But I mean, how she is handling adulthood. So I try to not put myself in a situation, but I always kind of, it's like almost like when movies have sequels, you want to make, you like, nobody wants to see a sequel and like, or I should say nobody, but like there are times when you see a sequel and it's like, I don't even know how they made the sequel. The first movie was great. Like I'm trying to have a High School Musical experience. Like the movies just kept getting better as the movies came out. Granted, it's only two of us, but just trying to make sure I'm living up to my own expectations and making you all proud at the same time. I feel like that's one of the bigger things I have as being the younger sibling. But I'm gonna keep saying it. I don't have the experience, the responsibility of putting the steps forward. So I'm gonna let you do that, okay? Because you got it, okay?
And part of my job, is to help you understand and accept the reality. We're not expecting you to be like Kanaya. We want you to not be like Kiani. We want you to be Kiani, and whatever that means. From the moment I met you, from the moment I met you, you've been different than your sister. I mean, literally from the moment I met you, the day you were born. So, and just watching you be different from her is a source of joy for me, because it means I'm going to experience things I didn't experience with her. I get to react to things I didn't get to react with her. I get to say things and share things to you and with you I didn't get to say and share to and with your sister. So helping you embrace the bigness of your personality compared to your sister, who doesn't get her energy, who doesn't draw energy from people, but you do. And so the challenge for me, was helping you to navigate that different personality, while also putting boundaries around that personality so you understood there was safety even when you were being big. With your sister, I didn't have to worry about so much those boundaries because she was going to stay close to the vest anyway. With you, yeah, you're a bit more adventurous. You're a bit more, you're not a bit more, you're a lot more outgoing, a lot more gregarious. And that's fine. That's not a knock on your sister. Again, you two are different young ladies, and that's how the Lord created you to be. So my responsibility was to nurture that, was to feed that, was to encourage that without making either of you feel that I'm disappointed because you don't act like the other.
I mean, I think that the plus is also I don't expect Kiani to be the same person. And I think that us embracing those differences, therein lies the sisterhood because it keeps it healthy. Because there are times that we know the other person's not going to do this or want to do this or experience this or feel this way about this particular thing. And then there's a lot that we do together that we have a lot of fun, make great memories, you know, we act a fool on a regular basis, might I add. But I think it keeps us healthy because we do have those boundaries of we are our own people. But I definitely think that if anything, my accomplishments are harder to get because I'm getting it out the mud. You know, you kind of know, Kanaya did that, don't do that.
Yeah.
Or Kanaya did this, do that. And you know earlier than I did. Or you're not in that situation, you know, at all. Like even with our schooling, yes, I skipped a grade, but my life has been on speed mode since then. You went to academic center, so you essentially went to high school a little bit earlier. So when you get to college, because of having more credits earlier, college is going to be different for you because you won't be starting at square one. I'm okay with that because I feel like I don't need to go any quicker with my situation. I'm okay with where I'm at. And so I think just being okay with those differences is what keeps the sisterhood intact the most.
Yeah. Speaking of our sisterhood, I can definitely say like how we interact. Not even just as sisters, but like in a way as friends. Like I've reached a point now, especially that I'm older, where we can connect and have moments to ourselves that don't end in bickering. Like we can be in each other's space and just coexist and not bother each other. Like I mean, there's times where like when you visit home and stuff like that, we'll be in each other's rooms and we'll be laughing, kikiing, and other things of that nature. But when it's time for one of us to get out, we're like, okay,
hey,
time for you to go. But
time for you to go.
Yeah, but we've gotten to that point now, and I mean, just feeling like even when we were younger, we had those moments like when you would watch TV. I just like being in your room and watching TV. Like there was a show that would come on. I'm saying late at night because at that time it was late, but it would come on like 8:30, and it was just like this wedding show, and you would watch it in your room, and
I remember the show.
had a day bed at the time, and so you'd be like, yeah, you can come in, you just gotta sit at the end of the bed. It's like cool. I don't care. I'm gonna be in your room. So I would sit there, and I'll never forget. I would always fall asleep watching it. And you would always tell me like, okay, you're getting sleepy, just go to bed. I'm like, no, I'm not sleepy. I'm fine. I'd be falling asleep on that railing, one eye open because I just didn't want to leave your room. So I just like I've always, since I was young, just always wanted to be around you and very much in your space because you're just that type of person that like I want to be around. And like it's a good be around because like with you being my sister, you always have my best interest at heart. So I never have to worry about something happening to me or you being like, oh, well, I'm kind of got some beef with you. So I ain't gonna do this. Like, even if we are at odds, you always have my best interest at heart. So I think that's another part of why our sisterhood is so good. Because we always like this. So I just, yeah.
So Kanaya, when did you, I mean, I imagine the first 3 years, you know, you have very few, if any, clear memories. when your sister came, obviously there was a shift. There was a shift for me because now I had two people to whom I had to give parental attention. I couldn't flood you with all of my love and all of my attention. I had to now give some of that to your sister, but while also making sure I gave you 100% of me, I gave her 100% of me as well. But obviously, when I had her, I could not be as attentive to you. And one of the reasons why I also made sure you got involved with taking care of her was so I had an extra set of hands. So whether it was carrying a diaper bag, whether it was going to get bottles, getting you involved with helping with your younger sister.
Yes, he was a young lady.
Was important, but it also was a way for me to bring the two, help you two bond. Tell me, when did you sort of turn the corner, you think, that into a space where you embraced the responsibility of being the older sister?
First of all, I have no memories from when we were kids. I have a split second memory when mom was pregnant with her, but that's about it. I feel like that probably happened I'm 20, probably in the last 3 years, probably.
Really?
Wow.
Because I think when you're kids, yeah, I'm the big sister, but the relationship lies within the unit, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we are older, and particularly I don't live in the same home, it's different because the sisterhood is independent of the family household unit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, so when you call me about things and you need help with something or just want to talk about something, I'm not at home, so you have to text me or FaceTime me or whatever to get my opinion or whatever I need to say about it. But it's still 3.5 years between us, so I feel like when I started to go through certain things, you were still a kid, so you were just like, I don't understand, this doesn't make sense. When you started to go through those same things and I kind of saw, okay, she's getting it, she's understanding why I don't like this or why I do things this way or whatever the case may be, and we could start having actual conversations about things and not just, okay, I don't like what you're doing, so I'm gonna go tell on you.
So you kind of had to wait for her to mature.
Yeah, I had to wait for her to come into her own as a young lady, as a young girl, as she got older. And then when we were younger, I feel like we didn't spend nearly as much time together. I feel like we were doing activities that were, even when we were dancing at the same studio,
You never had class?
I'm in one class and you're like 3-4 levels behind me with your age group.
Yeah.
We were in choir, I knew a lot of the older girls and you were friends with a lot of the young ones. So we would be separated even though we were at the same place.
Right.
We have a younger cousin who you used to spend a lot of time with her, and I was kind of just the caretaker. So if we were at somebody's house, I'm just in the bed with y'all to make sure nobody goes off the side.
Indeed.
While both of y'all had a foot, elbow, something inside of my back, my side, whatever. But when we got older and it was just like, now you can do things with me, that's when the sisterhood changed.
What's it like having Kiani as a friend? Because that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, you don't choose your family, so you all had no choice in being sisters, but we all choose our friends. And one of the things that I've said in the years past about both my sisters, but particularly my older sister, is they are good friends of mine. I share things with them because I want to. I share things with them because I value their input. I value their opinion. And I'm grateful that I can count my sisters as two of my closest friends. So I want both of you to talk about what it's like. Let's start with Kiani, since she's the younger one. What's it like having your older sister to also be your friend?
Man, it's a breath of fresh air. I mean, because I have a lot of friends that aren't particularly as close as their siblings as we are. I mean, like people,
Same.
kind of like distant cousins, like, yeah, they my sibling, but that wasn't my choice. But like, I brag about you all the time. Like, I mean, I found I'm fortunate enough to have a sister who I treat like a friend who doesn't mind being my friend. Like, I mean, like I still get on her nerves, but there are things that I can tell Naya that she really has sound advice on.
But let's be clear, friends get on each other's nerves, so that's not necessarily a sister thing.
Yeah, of course. To that, like, she can't get rid of me. So, like, I mean,
Touche.
yeah. So, but you just offer a side of a new avenue of friendship that, one, because you're older, but two, because with us being in the same family, we share similar experiences, and you offer just a new perspective of things that I generally sometimes just don't even think about. And also that also kind of stems from how we grew up and you taking us everywhere together. Like, for example, when you referee basketball games, like, we go together and your emphasis is always for us to stay together. So, like, kind of how, like, in a lot of ways, when you're younger, like, you have a buddy, like when like in school, like,
Yeah.
don't
Buddy
leave your
system.
buddy, hold your buddy's hand, don't let your buddy do this. Like, she's my built-in buddy. So, and like, now that we don't live at home together, granted, we can't do everything together, but like, when you are at home, like, I have to go to the store. Naya also has to go to the store, because even though I didn't need anything from the store, I'm going to. Naya has to go to the store. When Naya goes to get food, okay, I'm not gonna say I'm not hungry, because I'm always hungry. But like, when you go to get food, I'm going with Naya to get food. Why? Because Naya is driving.
Going to get
I
food.
want to be in your car. So I just, having that built-in buddy is just amazing, because I can, like, when I have no one else to turn to, and when I don't want to turn to my parents, I have you.
What's it like having Kiani as a friend?
I think that it's great. I think there used to be this show on Disney called Liv and Maddie, and they were twins, and they had a saying that went sisters by chance, friends by choice. And I think we definitely embody that. Because I have friends as well who have siblings that they're just kind of like, we're related, but we didn't grow up together, so we don't really have that type of relationship. It's fun because Kiani's younger than me. And so I think that I envy the joy that she kind of has when she goes about life, because it's just kind of like, I don't have to have this figured out because somebody's going to know the right answer and they're going to tell me. I don't necessarily have that be built in. And so the way she's just kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna go do what I want to do because I want to do it, and I get to do that. I'm just like, dang, like I want to do that. I don't get to do that. Like I have to sit and say, okay, if this decision don't work, what I'm gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah.
If this thing don't happen, what we gonna do about this right here? And so we have a lot of fun together. I think it lets me know I'm doing a decent job, I think, of being a big sister. I think I didn't value it much until I left home, because I'm like, we see each other every day. And I left home right out of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we were literally at the crib every day. And so it was just like, bro, okay, like I get it. I love y'all, but I need something else. I need something else.
So talk about, Kanaya, the dynamic that existed between the two of you during the pandemic, particularly those nights when she was on the phone with friends, you're trying to get some sleep, and she and her friends, they were yapping.
Man.
Yapping, man. I mean, just going. Just like, okay. Some nights I would be like, okay, Lord, I just want to lay down and watch the television. They want to talk and have a good time. But that's one of the things that Kiani gonna figure out how to have a good time. And that, like I was just saying, is something that I wish I did better at, because I feel like I'm always the person trying to be responsible. Like, do this make sense? Is it safe? Like all of those things.
And I like that about you. And that doesn't mean I don't like Kiani's adventuresomeness. I just made up a word. But I like you are more calculating, that you are more reserved. Maybe I like it because that's
You're
kind of how I am.
Not kind of.
But I appreciate that, and that doesn't mean Kiani doesn't take those factors into consideration. What Kiani may think about once, you're going to think about 3 or 4 times. That's the difference. Neither one of you is flying blind by the seat of your pants. She's simply quicker to pull the trigger, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think that comes from, I'm the person that's supposed to make sure the safety is on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that. So when I go out into any situation, I'm always, okay, how did this person move? What kind of situation is this? And then a lot of times, even now when we go places, I don't go the same places when Kiani's with me. Just like if she were to come visit me at school, I'm not gonna go party because I can't bring her. Like I don't feel like that's a place for her to be. That is, so I'm always the person that's like, she wants to have a good time. Is this the environment where I'm comfortable and she's comfortable with her being able to do that? Mm-hmm. So, in the pandemic, it was just kind of like, okay, this child wants to talk on the phone like all day. And I think it was amplified because it was just like, you having a good time. I'm trying to figure out, am I going to college? Because are we leaving the house for me to go to school? Where am I going to school? I'm looking like my senior year is down the drain. And you just,
I just wanted to play Roblox. I mean, it was.
Yeah, she just like, man, we just in here. Like,
I had a good time.
having a good time. We'll be outside when you say we come outside. But just always being in those different places of life, it definitely keeps us balanced. Being a big sister is a job, though. Something happened. I think it was my freshman year of college. So we're coming up on 2 years, and it's 1:00 in the morning, and I'm like, why is she calling me? And so I'm immediately, okay, something is happening because she shouldn't be calling me in the middle of the night. And so I had to pick up the phone and help her with whatever. And I love to do that. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like that job is never not necessary. That job is never all the time. If there was a 25/8 in existence,
absolutely.
And I think that's big sisters, big brothers, if you have little sisters, little brothers, whichever way it goes, when you are that older or oldest one, that job just kind of never ends. But it is probably my most fulfilling title.
Well, I will say I appreciate how you two have grown and gotten to be where you are. I mean, I think families suffer when siblings don't get along, when siblings don't like each other, because if that breach continues over a period of time, years become decades, that's going to come back. Listen, grandparents die, parents die, and when you have families that don't get along coming back for events like that, then those old hurts and those old wounds and the causes of that breach, they do resurface. And if they don't resurface, that means the family hasn't really come together for that event. So I'm pleased to know, at least in this stage of your lives, you two are such good friends that you will be able to face whatever situations and circumstances come up in your lives. You two are rooting for each other. You are supporting each other. You are encouraging each other. You are cheering for each other. And so if all else fails, I think each of you understands your parents have your back and your sister has your back. And that I'm hopeful that is a safety net and a source of comfort that you will carry with you throughout your years. And if you don't have that, if a family doesn't have that, then that's one less strand of love and support that family doesn't have. And eventually, as I said, that's going to surface when you need it most. You won't have it, and that was something I didn't want for my children.
Can I ask you something? As far as our sisterhood goes, the sistership, are there things that you kind of would want to see in our siblingship that you have in yours, or are there things that we're doing that you may have missed out on that you would like to experience?
I don't know, only because I don't have any brothers. And so, the relationship I have with my older sister is obviously different than the one I have with my younger sister. Excuse me, my older sister is 2 years older, 2 years and some change. My younger sister is 7 years and some change younger than I am. So our our dynamics are different. With my older sister Marcleta, again, she was the person I was always chasing. She was the one who was setting the standard, setting the bar for me. And so I knew what I needed to do. Kind of going back to what Kanaya was saying, there was really no one that she didn't have a role model. She didn't have someone setting that example for her. And that was also a reason, Kanaya, why I wanted you to talk with your aunt and get her perspective of being the firstborn, because she lived it. I want you to talk to cousin Tori, because she's the firstborn of two girls. She's lived it, so they can speak from experience what I can only speak from theory. But to your question, Kiani, I could only be so close to my sister because we weren't the same gender. So I don't know what it's like to be a young lady. I don't know what it's like to have a younger sibling who is a male. I can't speak to that. I can only look at her as an older sibling and look at some of the accomplishments she did and say I can do those things, but there was always a line of demarcation that separated us. Whereas with the two of you, you guys are going to experience much the same things. So from the obvious, when it comes to starting your menstrual cycles and growing into your bodies, I didn't have that with my older sibling. So I'm grateful that you all have the kind of cohesion and chemistry that you have, because almost everything you go through, your sister has gone through it, and she's willing to share with you her experience, as she said, so you can make fewer mistakes, so you won't make the same mistakes. But I also like how you understand when you find yourself in a situation maybe she hasn't been in, you can still go to her and maybe she can impart some wisdom based on her own experience, maybe in a different circumstance. But I like the fact you feel comfortable going to her, even if you may not feel comfortable coming to me or your mom. So I wouldn't improve anything on your sisterhood and on your friendship. The one thing I wish your mother and I had done was had you sooner. I would have liked you all to have been maybe 2 years apart. Because again, I think had you all been in high school at the same time, that would add another dimension of depth to your relationship, to your friendship. But I appreciate what Kanaya has done in initiating that friendship between you. I told her this story, but I remember when she left you a card. When she moved to college, she left you a card. I want to know what's in that card so much. And I don't expect you to tell me, but just for her to do that and leave whatever words of wisdom she imparted, that confirmed to me she got it. She understood what her place is in your life, and I'm hopeful and I'm confident you read it, you embraced it, and it just further propelled you guys into a deeper friendship.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, you going to college, to this day, is still such a surreal experience, because all I've ever known is my sister.
And I'm almost done.
Literally, like I guess it doesn't really click that you don't live here. I don't think it's gonna until you're out of school, because then you really won't have a reason to be at home, because now you'll be out on your own.
At my home.
Exactly. But the car was just I remember getting home and walking in your room and crying, because I was like, man, you really don't live here anymore. And walking downstairs, like, my sister's gone. And then walking upstairs and finding the car, I cried so hard reading that car. And it just really solidified how deep our sisterhood runs. Because, not to spew out the words of the car, but it was just summing up just how even though we were 800, 900 miles apart, you were literally just a phone call away. And so like everything that I experienced that like I literally found myself like I don't know what to do. I know that my sister isn't in a place where she's just gonna be like, well, you know, I'm at school, so like I need you to like go not be at school with me. I can still call you and like I can rely on you in ways that like even though I can't rely on you physically, I know that your voice and the wisdom that you have is still going to be a guiding light and a guiding voice.
I think that being a big sister, like I said, it's a job, it's a responsibility, but I think that it's so helpful in life to be like, I always have a person in my corner on my team. You know, most people probably will tell you I'm like my dad. I'm like, yeah, I'm, just kind of there, especially when things are going on. I'm just kind of observing. But people know messing with Kiani is, yeah, you're gonna feel that fire. That hot fire. Okay. So I always wanted you to know that that's not going to change no matter how far away I am. Of course, not being there, I can't come and pick you up or whatever unless I'm at home. But I mean, if you're calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning, that means something is going on. And I think that we have had an in-depth relationship enough for me to know that like you're not calling me at 3 a.m. So there are certain things that I know this don't seem quite like this should be happening. I remember I was in high school. I think something was going on at your school, and I'm like, why is she calling me? And it's 2:30. Like I'm in eighth period, and sure enough, something was going on, and she couldn't get in touch with my mom because she was at work handling some other business, and I knew she should not be calling me. So I had to go out. I texted her back, like, but what's up, whatever. She's like, I can't find mom, blah, 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 whatever. So I tried to tell her what I thought best to do in that situation because I couldn't just leave because I don't think I was driving. Was I driving at the time? I might have been, but I don't think I had my own car yet.
Yeah.
I can't leave. So this is the best advice that I have until we can get mom on the phone or whoever. But I think that just having somebody that's always in your corner, always supporting you is vital to this life. And I feel like I don't have a reason not to. So, we don't have any, issues that have separated us. Hopefully we never do. But I think
what I hope though, in that regard, Kanaya, I hope I have, and obviously I hope your mom has instilled in both of you the necessity of addressing issues that may prompt difficult conversations.
Oh yeah.
If you have a beef with your sister or she with you, I hope you two love each other enough and value your relationship enough to talk about it. One of the things that crushes families is either a hesitancy or an apprehension or just a complete failure to have difficult conversations. And I know they're uncomfortable. I know we would rather not deal with certain issues, but the more you two talk about things you're going through, even if you have, again, some level of anger or beef with one another, by all means, you need to talk about those things so that they don't fester, so they don't last for weeks, months, and years, so they don't end up driving a wedge between you that you will have difficulty removing. I am hopeful as your father, you all will always have that sort of mindset toward each other, that nothing, no matter what you go through, nothing can penetrate the bond that you two have set with each other as sisters who are friends, or as friends who happen to be sisters.
Yeah, I think it will stay intact. I mean, she's the only person I'm responsible for, quote unquote, until I have kids. So, because I think even as adults, there's still going to be a level of, I'm going to have to make sure I'm not taking her into certain environments when I know better and she might not know better. Like college is going to be big because I will be done with my bachelor's degree when she gets to college. And so she's going to be experiencing all the things that I could have and was like, yeah, that's not a good idea, or did, and maybe found out probably shouldn't have done that, or whatever the experience is going to be. But I think that having a sister is having a built-in friend, somebody that you can always call for whatever it is. I probably don't call as much as she calls me for actual help. Now I'll call her just be talking about things because we just be just yapping, man.
Yeah, but I think in our uniqueness, and especially like how much we differ, and like me being more so a people person, also as an avenue to our sisterhood, because I mean, like you said, there's certain things that I'm gonna do that you just won't do. And with
But
that,
not immediately.
yeah, and so with that being said, like how you said, like you don't call me as much so for advice, I don't blame you, because when kind of how you mentioned, can I have more so of she gonna think about it 2 or 3 times, let it happen, let it rip.
And I'm gonna be like, does the parachute work before you jump
Right.
off?
Nah, let's jump. Let's see where it takes us. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? And just in that nature, I feel like you embracing that part of me, because like there's gonna be certain things I'm gonna do that you didn't do that are probably just gonna be plain out stupid. But because I think they're the brightest thing walking, I'm like, oh yeah, let's do that. So like you give me the room to like be like, okay, yeah, Canada's not a good idea. But also like if I want to do it, you're like, okay, like try it out, but okay, make sure you have a backup plan, make sure you this, make sure you do that. And I really appreciate that, because you don't hinder what I find interesting, but you want to keep me safe.
But that's also a gift you brought to me as a parent, Kiani. Um, I try things, or sometimes I try things with you. Sometimes I allow you to try things, or you may motivate me to try some things I wouldn't normally do. And that's good because, it stretches and broadens my horizons. It makes me a better parent to you and to your sister. Because it forces me to think about and to ponder things that are foreign to my experience.
Yeah.
And so, you're whereas Kanaya is much more likely to take a crayon and stay inside the lines. You're going to take a handful of permanent markers, and you're going to draw everything except what's in the lines.
Absolutely.
And so again, that's good for me and for your sister, because you take us beyond what's comfortable for us.
Yeah, and that's why oftentimes I look to both of you for much more sound and concrete advice, because I know that there are such situations where you just can't just like do whatever, because there has to be calculated, there has to be much more calculated thinking behind it. Like for them, like with me learning to be a new driver, like there's just certain things, like with me being a new driver and you all being much more experienced, like there are just certain things that I find nerve wracking, or I find, well, I should just be able to do this, and you gotta like, oh no,
Don't do that.
and people live, so let's not do that. But with driving especially, you all being such good drivers, and like for me, like driving instills a sort of fear in me, that like, because in certain instances, like when it comes to my thinking, I like to be 100% in control, and like when I'm not, my thinking doesn't do what it needs to do. But talking to both of you kind of helps to steer my thinking, like, okay, yeah, you can't control what other people do, but you can control what you can do. And you know that if something like this is to happen, well, you know to move the car this way, you know to move the car that way. So like in spite of like all the while on how like my brain moves, you can add a balance that I need, because I'm not trying to be in juvie. I'm not trying to be dead. So I mean, I gotta find a balance. I mean, you're not at a point where I would say like I can get you to what people would say live a little to like the fullest extent. But also I think you're just in a space in life where like you're very much so like every move has to be calculated. Understandable. But I feel like once you get out of school, hopefully when you're out of school, we can kind of have that tit for tat. Well, okay, Kiani, like you cannot do that because you will go to jail. But Kanaya, like, what's a night in jail gonna do? Like, we need this experience. So we can have those types of moments, but I feel like you also add a sort of balance to me, and I hope and I pray that I add a balance to you to kind of let loose and live and do all the things that life has in store, because you only have one life, and it would suck if you spent all of it in your house.
because I will do that. I like my house.
Yeah.
I definitely think that I'm a lot more calculated than my sister, but I think that comes from learning from my parents the things that they did not do or wish they did that would have curated a different life for them than maybe what they have. I know the kind of life that I want. And so I'm super conscious of like, if I make this decision, is this conducive to where I'm trying to get to? Because the empire is not built yet. So I think once I have a certain level, okay, I'm established career wise, my finances are where I am comfortable with for whatever point in time in my life, I probably will jump off a couple more cliffs just kind of freely. I think that you still being in high school, that's not, your parents kind of do more of that thinking for you. My parents are not a part, our parents are not a part of my everyday decision making like they are yours. And so I have to kind of be like, okay, do I want to be seen doing these things? Like, for example, the social scene in high school, yes, there's social media, high school and college, but college, it has a little bit more weight because, you know, you might have career people, companies, members of, you know, different boards or whatever types of organizations who can find and see me doing things that they might be like, yeah, we don't want her. I don't really want that. In high school, people kind of expect or their kids having fun. So that's something that's an example of something that I have to be thinking about on a regular basis. So I think that when I get further in life, I probably will shift a little bit more to doing more things, but just trying to kind of get that foundation really set is my goal right now. I mean, I think when it comes to driving, we switched. I'd be outside, like I'm gonna get in the car and drive somewhere. And I was excited to do that the minute I could do that. Because I kind of carried the mindset, as long as I do what I'm supposed to do, there is nothing, unfortunately, that I can do about the next person's car. As long as, even though you do have to drive for other people, at the end of the day, you're not controlling their vehicle. So there's just certain things I cannot prevent. So when you are learning how to drive, and we talked about it, it was very much like, I think you understand the science, which is the mechanics, but you have not figured out your art form. And I think that is a journey that you cannot rush, because I got way more comfortable, I think, this year, because now that I have my car with me all the time, I'm always driving. But also, since we relocated, this is new driving territory and the landscaping is much different than where we came from. So I'm having to relearn, yeah, can't, you know, speed with caution through residential streets because we always are curving or going up and down. Right. So I don't want my car to roll over, or I'm going 60 miles per hour and it's a stop sign right there because of the decline. So just having to rewire that. And so I think with you having to understand it's an art as well, and you have to figure that out, but also having to be honest with you and be like, but when you get in the car and you sit in the front, you're not really watching what's going on. I remember when I was young and I was learning how to drive, I was fascinated by things that were happening. Like, how does the car stop like that? Like the
you driving with your, like, oh my God, the way I drive, like,
yeah, like the car, the brake doesn't just make the car just stop. Like the art of like ease on the brake and it will stop. I didn't know that at first, but now driving is like second nature. And I do drive like my dad. So, you know, it's pretty fluid. With Kiani, it was just like, I don't know how to do this. And there is a mechanical way to do it, but everybody's way of doing it is different.
Well, driving is a rite of passage. And I think we're going to cover rites of passage, such as driving and applying to colleges and graduating from colleges and graduating from high school, going to college, prom. We're gonna talk about rites of passage in our next episode, because again, as we've kind of hinted, Kiani is in still the beginning stages of driving, and so I want her to share more about her experience getting behind the wheel and taking her first solo drive, and how we've had to navigate the nervousness that comes to both of us when she's behind the wheel. So we're going to talk about that. But just wrap up this episode of your sisterhood, and how you all are similar but not the same. I want to relay to our listeners the experience that I had taking you both to school for your first days. So with Kanaya, it was almost like World War II. I mean, it was, Kanaya and I, we spent so much time together, and so for her, the separation anxiety was in full effect. Crying in the car when we got to the school, crying when we walked through the door into the school, crying when we got to the classroom where she was going to be. I mean, and it was big crocodile tears, the yelling, the screaming,
Really?
all of that, and finally just and then having to put her in the room with the teacher and then walk away from her, and then hearing the shriek of her disappointment as if I had abandoned her.
Oh gosh.
It was bad.
It was a thing. And
It was
it was so bad. She could not be at school for a full week. We had to wean her into school. So she was in school like 3 days out of the 5 days in the week.
Oh girl.
It was
It was really bad, y'all.
It was something to behold. And so finally, I mean, we even your mother and I even asked her teacher to come to our house to have dinner so she can kind of get used to her teacher. And it was a big thing.
You clowning.
It was
bad.
Gosh.
And so it took her a while to get used to being in school. And so when your mother and I decided to put you in school, of course, that was flooding my mind. How are we going to get Kiani to accept the fact that we were going to leave her with these strangers? Well, the good news was your mother and I took you to school, but your mother walked you in.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked into the hallway, but I didn't walk all the way down to the classroom. But when I saw you all turn the corner going to the classroom, I heard you basically say, "Hey y'all, what's happening? How y'all doing?"
Yes, good, great job.
And you didn't give your mother a hug or a kiss goodbye. There was nothing. It was like you had been freed. And so at that moment, it became crystal clear to me how much you would thrive on being with people compared to your sister, who was much more reserved and much more conservative in how she relates to people. What she has done, what you've done, you both have maximized your uniquenesses in that realm, and you are using your superpowers to do much good. And for me to see how far each of you have come in that regard, it truly is a source of joy and delight.
Wonderful.
If y'all didn't know, that's a key experience that tells us how different we are. Because I mean, I was having a full-on tantrum, y'all.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember two. One of them was at school. I was in the hallway, the main like foyer, and I just would not get off the ground. I was sitting on the black rug, mat, whatever you want to call it, and I was just going to town because I was like, how you gonna leave me here with these people? I remember one time I was at Gammy's house. That's our paternal grandmother, his mom. And Gammy put me on timeout in the back room because I was crying because you left me and I didn't get to say bye. I remember it was like, I was like, like I was so frustrated. And so Kiana just was like, okay, I'll see y'all at 3:00.
Hey, school was a blast. Shout out Miss Jackson. That class was off the hook. I'm talking straight party, 25A. They used to feed us. Tell us about that lunch. And they brought it to it.
Yeah, the breakfast too, the grits used to be crazy.
Like, this being older thing is overrated. But like, we can talk about that in the next episode because like,
right. So yeah, so we'll get more into our
Right.
experiences with school, different rites of passage, what I loved about my moments, what I hope she'll look forward to. So we really hope you guys love this episode. Tune in next week for the next episode. Thank you guys so much. Continue to watch and tune in every week. Thank y'all. Have a good one.
Bye.
Deuces.